Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is gonna be a fun one, and it definitely is gonna be for me at least, because this is not gonna be a video that you usually see on my channel, but it's gonna be more about genetic exploration. The reason for that is because genetics is an old fascination of mine. It's a topic that I have researched in the past and that I've just revisited a couple of months ago. And it led me to watching some videos with people from all over the world who would basically, they would order these various DNA kits from different labs like Ancestry DNA, MyHeritage DNA, and 23andme, where they would send in a sample of their saliva in a tube for analysis, and then they would get their results back a few weeks later to see where they actually have their genetic ancestry from. Now, some of these were really fascinating, specifically with people from the Middle East, in the Arab world, where a lot of the people there supposedly have a lot of Jewish ancestry, which came out a little bit sketchy for most of them, which they didn't really appreciate that much, but it was actually really fun watching that. Just to get their impressions, their comments, and just to see that initial impression that they would have. Same thing goes for, say, people from Far East Asia, with the Koreans, who are, you know, mostly homogeneous, but some of them actually do have ancestors from other countries, which they obviously didn't expect, because they were told otherwise by their family, and so it came a little bit of a surprise to them. But it kind of got me thinking, you know what? We people from the Balkans, we have a pretty wild reputation when it comes to anything. And DNA is one of those things where people say that the Balkans is a melting pot of all different peoples and culture groups and whatnot. And since we do have this reputation of the Balkan powder keg, I thought to myself, let's actually dive in and see if my own DNA lines up with what I expect it to be, and if we can break some of the myths that we obviously hear from various different people. Now, before we get into that, I also made a prediction list just to make this experiment a little bit more interesting and fun, and to see if my current knowledge and, you know, what I know about genetics lines up with the results that I would get from the lab of my choice. Now, I said here on, this is my Facebook page, I made this post. I know it's in Serbian, but basically what I'm saying here is I'm expecting the I2A haplogroup to be the dominant one, and specifically I said that I would have a minimum 80% of Balkan genes or Balkan DNA, if not maybe like 90% or outright 100%, even though this last one was pretty questionable depending on my personal features, but I said at least like 80%, and I said that that would be primarily from Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Montenegro, with maybe Croatia, Romania, and Bulgaria. The remaining possible 20% that I would distribute, like the rest of these 20%, would be 12% from Eastern Europe, 6% from Greece, although Greece is actually counted as part of the Balkans in the results that I got, so it didn't make much of a difference, but it definitely, it kind of got my expectations more accurate than I originally intended, which was pretty fun. And lastly, I said 2% Celtic, or specifically from like the Western European countries, including Britain and Ireland. This is because, as I kind of stated as a funny comment, because I do have slightly reddish beard. And on the 15th of September, I received my results from 23andme, which was the lab of my choice, that my DNA results were ready for discovery. Now, I chose 23andme because I figured out from everything that I've seen up to this point that they definitely have the best database with the most information, and they also go into much more details with the largest DNA compositions of your results, where they highlight certain countries, certain regions, and even provinces where you are most likely from. Which, you know, considering that these tests aren't entirely cheap, I do appreciate 23andme's results, because they do give you better value for money, in my opinion. Now, when we jump into the first page after I log on to my 23andme account, this is the first page that we get into. As you can see, we have like this little graph here with the estimated percentages of all the genetic composition that I have. It says that I'm 100% me, which I believe everyone is, and I am 99.9% European. It says Southern European 77.2%. That's actually a lot. Primarily from the region of Greece and the Balkans in general, with 74.9%. Now, that is what I would expect, and it's pretty close to what I estimated. What I estimated to be, with at least 80%, but that's not too far off. And broadly Southern European with 2.3%. I mean, that could basically be from like Italy and Spain, but it could also be from, say, Bulgaria or Romania. I mean, that's also technically in Southern Europe. Then it says Eastern European, 14.8%. I'm also 1.6% from Northwestern Europe, so the British Isles and Ireland, 0.6%, and broadly Northwestern European 1%. So that's like Germany, France, and Ireland, and possibly somewhat Iberia. But considering that it's 0.6% Irish, like British and Irish, that's really close to what I said about the 2% Celtic, which was what I noticed about my reddish beard. And broadly 6.3% European. Now it says 0.1% unassigned, which is, I mean, everything else is European, so this one probably belongs to one of these groups. They just couldn't really say where it's from, and 0.1% is so little that anywhere else it would be completely insignificant. Like, you might as well chuck it in here in 74.9%, just make it a round number to 75. But yeah, like, with the friends and family that I've shared this with, we have like an inside joke, because I sometimes stay late at night, stay awake at late at night, that this would be like my extraterrestrial vampire DNA, because in Serbia we have like various folklores and myths, so yeah, just as an inside joke, there you go. But that's basically the standard results that I've received here. Going into detail, we also get these Balkan results a little bit more specified, because that's the highest percentage I have. We also get this region highlighted more specifically. Now, before I get into them though, a little bit of context. So, I'm personally born in Sarajevo, which is roughly around this area right here. In fact, let me just click on Bosnia real quick. Yeah, Sarajevo is right here. This is the capital city of the country. And this is also the first country that is the likely match. Now, this is true because I was born here, and the same thing goes for both of my parents. My father and my mother were born in Sarajevo. And here is where it gets a little bit interesting, because as you can see, Bosnia in general has a very, very strong percentage, with like everything being very, very blue. And that is because of another thing we're gonna get into a little bit later, which is the haplogroups. But essentially, on my father's side, most of my family on his side is from this country. So they would mostly be from the Federation. Very few from the Republika Srpska, which is the second one, and then the actual capital district, which is just also called Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, just in the Serbian language. It's basically the same, like the first and the third are called the same thing, but one is simply called that in English, the other one in Serbian. And the Brčko district is like an exclave up here, which is so tiny that, yeah, there is not much from that area. But then again, nobody really is. It's a weird little division up here that really... It belongs to the Federation, but honestly, it's... nobody... Very few people come from here. So that's... Yeah, so Bosnia is the most likely match at first. The second one is actually from Croatia, which is generally highlighted here in the area of Zadar, the Zadar County, and also in general the entire Dalmatian coast. Now, I don't really know anyone specifically from my family that would be from Croatia. But it's most likely on my father's side. The thing is, like, in, like, small context, without really revealing too much, my father's side is the one that I'm least known with because of, like, personal history and whatnot. But it's most likely on his side that I have family who are from Croatia, and thus I've probably inherited some of the DNA from those relatives. My father, being from Sarajevo, his father was also from the country, but his mother, that is my grandmother, on his side, is from Montenegro. Now, I don't actually have any DNA from, or DNA specified from Montenegro, but it's interesting that she's definitely from here. It's just that most of the DNA composition I've inherited from his side is from Bosnia, and most likely this part from Croatia. Going down to the next one is a possible match from Greece. Now, this one I really don't know who it would be, but I've also made a little bit of a joke because I've seen a few Serbian YouTubers who have posted their DNA results on their channel, and most of them actually have this area, the exact same area here, the Peloponnese region, highlighted in their DNA results as well. Now, Montenegro, that I mentioned before, is what we in Serbia call, or have nicknamed, the Serbian Sparta. And the Peloponnese, that is basically Sparta's center, or the epicenter. Like, Sparta is right down here, and the Peloponnese, like, especially during, like, ancient Greek history, had pretty much Sparta being the main faction that ruled it, alongside with Corinth and Athens being right here, which is like the decentralized administration of Attica, that I also have a small percentage from. But basically this area here that has the most percentage, I basically joked that because maybe 23andme don't have Montenegro in their database, or not really enough, that this is like the substitute for it. Yeah, it's a joke, but yeah, if anything, I don't really make much sense of this, because obviously I don't really know any family that comes from Greece. The other one is Central Macedonia, which is this area here, and the third one being Crete. The last one is Western Macedonia, which I guess, yeah, this would be it. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like, Sparta, Athens, Macedonia, and Crete. That's like the four also like historically main areas of Greece, I would say, especially from ancient times. That's pretty cool, actually. Romania, that came as the next likely match, And again, I don't really know of any family members from here specifically. From either side, this may be some more distant relatives that I have. I don't really know. I honestly, I don't really know exactly who it would be. But as it says here, I have the highest percentage coming up here from the northern parts of the region of Moldavia, not Moldova, that's the country, but the name is inspired from the country actually. So from Moldavia up here, that's where I have the most percentage, and then I got a little bit here from the Transylvania region, which is pretty cool. That might be also related to the 0.1% that I mentioned before with vampire DNA, but then again, yeah, that one's never gonna get old. So yeah, that's. I actually really like Romania. I even have a cousin who recently went there to visit some friends, and they went to see the fortress where supposedly Vlad Tepes, or the original Dracula, came from, or actually resided in, even though that's not really true. That's just a made-up story for the sake of tourism. Just don't tell them that. I'm not gonna reveal too much, but yeah, I like Romania, and I'm really glad that I do have a little bit coming from them. I would have thought that maybe I would have more from the area of Wallachia, which is down here, like the Vlachs, which are more closely tied to the Slavic population. Like, obviously Romania is influenced by both the Latin and the Slavic world, so, you know, there's a little bit of here and there, but then again, maybe because it's closest to Ukraine up here that I've mostly got my DNA composition in Romania from this region. Anyway, it's pretty interesting, and I do like that I do have a little bit of Romanian in me. And finally, I also got Serbia, which is of course my home country that I primarily identify with ethnically, and this is definitely this definitely got the most accurate of all of the sort of possible matches, because on my mother's side, Serbia is where most of my family comes from, primarily because both of my grandparents on my mom's side are from Serbia. My grandfather was from Gornji Milanovac, which is roughly around this area here. I also got relatives on his side from Aranđelovac, and also, yeah, from like the Zlatibor district and Šumadija here around Belgrade. So yeah, so like south of Belgrade. So yeah, this area here on my mom's side is very accurate. My grandmother came from Sombor, which is up in this area, and most of my closest family members actually live up here in this region, Novi Sad being the primary place. Then we have Kula, and we also got Sombor as well as Subotica up here. So I do have my closest relatives living up here, but originally, yeah, a lot of them actually came from this area. So this is pretty accurate, and I'm very glad that Serbia got really precise results, alongside obviously Bosnia, which just has DNA all over the place. But yeah, that was some of the narrowed down compositions to it. Obviously there's more, because there are also the all 24 tested populations, which is relevant for one specific reason. Aside from the Greek and Balkan percentages, I also had a large percentage of Eastern European DNA. But as you can see, I don't have any specific nation in Eastern Europe highlighted. As it states here, although we have detected Eastern European DNA in your ancestral breakdown, we have not identified more specific locations that your recent ancestors may have called home. Now, obviously, this is not a small percentage. I mean, 14.8%, if you just, scale it up to like 15%, that's a lot of relatives. Like, that's like an eighth of my entire DNA, which is not a small thing, and then you don't have anything detected. It could be that I have a little bit more of distant relatives from these countries. Like, for example, Ukraine. Even during Ottoman times, we had Serbian settlers in central Ukraine, which was called New Serbia, and on Ukraine's eastern border today, which was called Slavo-Serbia, with villages and towns named from back home, like Pančevo and Smederevo, along with many other names as well, which you can definitely check out on Google Maps as well, which is pretty cool. So, I mean, some of those historical events might be part of this percentage. I don't really know. But who knows? I mean, I'm definitely guessing that this percentage comes from my mom's side because of, again, the haplogroups that we're gonna be checking in a short bit. Obviously, we have the Northwestern European section highlighted here, with the 0.6% from Ireland, United Kingdom and Guernsey? Guernsey? I have never heard this name before. I'm sorry, I have no idea where this is. Obviously, it's from the region, but honestly, this is the first time I've heard this name before, so yeah. Pretty cool. I don't have anything detected from there, but then again, the percentage is so low that it's not really a surprise. Yeah, the rest of these are pretty much 0%. Interesting fact though, I do live in the country of Denmark for most of my life, to be honest. Funny thing is though, I don't have any relation to this place genetically. So, yeah, no Viking blood in me, or Scandinavian, which would have been pretty cool, because depending on the haplogroup, I could potentially have had some, with certain relatives from here, but that did not turn out to be the case. Broadly Western European, that's really low. And then Ashkenazi Jewish, yeah, 0% Jewish in me. Which, you know, some people say a little bit of Jewish can make you apply for Israeli citizenship, but Israel did recognize Kosovo just recently, so yeah. Not gonna be applying for it even if I did have it. Sorry, guys. No offense. Broadly European, 6.3%, and the rest of this is pretty much 0, with the unassigned remaining 0.1%. This is gonna be a meme forever. Jumping straight into the next part, we're gonna be looking at the paternal haplogroup. Now this is the haplogroups that basically is my father's lineage, but in a sense that I have inherited from my father, and then he from his father. So all the males on his of his lineage is what I've basically inherited this from. As I did say in my original prediction, I said I would have the I2A haplogroup. I did actually state it correctly, because the haplogroup that I do have is the haplogroup I, or specifically IS17250. Now I did read this section, and unfortunately I don't really know that much about how haplogroups work, aside from like what people groups they specify. Apparently haplogroup A was the original one, and then it's sort of, I guess, through migrations and mutation, it became the haplogroup I we know today. But I'll just slowly scroll through this in case any one of you are interested in reading it. Yeah, you can see that it started from Africa, but then again, many haplogroups, if not the majority of them, are from Africa. But yeah, so I did read through this, and it's pretty fascinating. But it does really line up with the results we saw from Bosnia, because Bosnia has the highest percentage of I2A DNA in the Balkans. Like, it is possibly the most concentrated area in the world with that percentage, with Croatia being on like in second place, which has these results, and Serbia actually being in third place. But yeah, so haplogroup I is what I've inherited from my father. And on my mom's side, I inherited the haplogroup called U5A2A. Now this one is actually not one I've heard of before at all. Like, when I looked down on this, it came from the haplogroup L, and then L3, N, R, and then became the U haplogroup, again from this region down here in Africa. Now I'll let you read through this, you know, I'm just gonna scroll through this, and you can pause if it was too quick. But basically, the only thing that really made sense to me is when I read this part here at the end, because it says that today's members of the U5A2A haplogroup are frequently found among Poles, Russians, Belarusians, and Czechs. Now, I do think that this haplogroup may be related somewhat to R1A, because that is the main haplogroup amongst these people. It's called the sort of Balto-Slavic haplogroup, and considering that I do have the Eastern European part of me up to like a 15%, that is probably the case here with the haplogroup on my mom's side. So that was actually pretty fascinating. So the female lineage from my mom's side is probably the one that I've inherited from Eastern Europe, and those percentages are from her side, and the Balkan ones primarily from my dad. Finally, I also want to check this last bit, which are traits. And traits, that's like the percentage for certain genetic features and physical features that I'm most likely to have with my DNA compositions. And we can just scroll through this like as the ending part, which was pretty fun to watch. So black hair, 65% chance you have little or no back hair. Well, that is not true, actually. I have a lot of back hair, especially on top here around my shoulders, so this is incorrect. The 35% wins here. Bald spot. 84% chance that I do not have a bald spot, and that is correct. I do not have a bald spot. In fact, I have pretty straight hair, which you know, I really have to visit the barbershop every now and then and get my hair fixed, because I am definitely not gonna get a bald spot anytime soon. What does it say? Cheek dimples? So, 57% chance you do not have dimples, and that is correct. I definitely do not have dimples. Cleft chin? 71% chance you do not have a cleft chin. This is incorrect, because I do actually have a cleft chin right here. And that is something that I've inherited from my mom. My father didn't have that, but my mom definitely did. Dandruff. 52% chance you have never had dandruff, and that is correct. I have never had dandruff. Earlobe type. 80% chance you have detached earlobes. I guess detached is this one, because it's like it's a little bit wider, so it's detached, and the other one is attached. If this one is detached, then this is correct. Yeah, I definitely have detached. Like my earlobes are pretty like wide. They don't like gather together or like attach at like the edge there. It's pretty pretty detached. Following early hair loss, 74% chance you will not experience hair loss or thinning before the age of 40. I'm kind of hoping that's not, that it's gonna be later than the age of 40, but you know, at least I still have like 10 years to enjoy like my hair not falling off my head before things start thinning down. This is a grim little section here. I don't like this. But it's good that it's like after the age of 40. This, if it was before that, then yeah, I would panic, but yeah. I hope I don't start losing hair, but I doubt it. My hair is pretty thick. Earwax type. 93% chance you have wet or sticky earwax. Now, I definitely do have sticky earwax. I don't know if it's wet, though, but it's definitely sticky, so this is true. Dry and flaky ear... Yeah, it's not flaky, it's definitely sticky. Eye color? 31% dark brown. Yep, this is definitely true. Although some people do say that I have more like light brown eyes. So it's one or the other. It's not dark hazel or light hazel. It's definitely not green, not greenish blue, and definitely not blue. That's... I can dream of that only. So yeah, either light brown or dark brown. Like, if you ask me, like personally, when I look myself in the mirror, I would probably say a little bit more dark brown, though if there's like more light in the room, you might think it's more light brownish. So it's up for debate. It depends on what you consider dark or light brown eyes. We got finger length ratio. So 72% chance your ring finger is longer than your index finger. And I actually stretched out my hands in like as much as I could, with my fingers just stretched out as much as I humanly could. And it turns out, yes, my ring finger actually does exceed my index finger, which I didn't even think about beforehand. And now that I look at it, yeah, it's definitely just maybe a millimeter, like maybe 2 millimeters longer than my index finger, and that's for both hands. So yeah, that is actually correct. That's pretty fascinating. I didn't even think about that until they mentioned it. Freckles, 54. Yeah, 54 chance you have lots of freckles. Well, no, I actually don't have. But I've got very few. Now, back during my puberty, I did have a lot of zits, unfortunately, which was pretty bad. But maybe because from back then it kind of looks like around my nose that I might have just a few of them. But like my face does not have a lot of freckles. Definitely not. We've got next one here is hair photo bleaching. So 51% chance you do not experience hair photo bleaching. Honestly, I don't think so, because I have pretty dark hair, like very brown, very dark brown hair. Although I have heard some people say that they do occasionally, like in the sun or when a room is pretty lit up, they do claim that they can see maybe a few of my hairs, like, almost look like it's slightly blonde-ish, which, honestly, I have never seen, and I've actually tried to look closely just to see if that's true, but I'm not convinced. I don't think that is the case, so yeah, I don't think I experience photo bleaching. Maybe in the sun, it's possible, but I don't really think so, to be honest. I'm not convinced. Hair texture. 45% slightly wavy hair. Nope. 24% straight hair. Yeah, that is pretty accurate. Like, I have pretty straight hair. It is incredibly straight hair. Wavy hair, nope. Big curls, I don't have curls whatsoever. But yeah, very straight hair. Wavy, maybe if I let it grow, like into like longer hair, but nah. It's pretty straight. Light or dark hair? Like I said, I have pretty dark brown hair. Some people, there are actually a few people who think that my hair is completely like black, but it's not. Like maybe you would get that impression if we sit in like a pretty dim room. But with any light inside, you can clearly see that even though my hair is pretty dark, it does have a brownish color. Newborn hair. 69% chance you had little to no hair at birth. And yeah, as a child, I definitely had very, very little hair. I did not have lots of hair as a child, or as an infant especially, so yeah, that took its time, but now I definitely have lots of hair. Red hair? Nope, no chance at that. Skin pigmentation. 39% very fair skin. I can tell you that is... You might as well have put this to like 80% because if you were to like give me the role of a vampire in a movie, you don't even need to bleach my skin to make me look natural. I already have the natural setting for that role. Like, I probably need to get a bit more suntan. I'm pretty fair-skinned. So much so that one of my nieces, when I went on vacation, she said, "Uncle, why the heck are you so pale?" Oh man, I don't like... I don't know, I'm a little bit... yeah, I don't like the sun that much, so getting a tan can sometimes be a little bit risky since I've actually experienced sunburns many times, even on days where the sun wasn't really out that much. So yeah, very fair-skinned, very little tan. Stretched marks, 66% chance that I do not have stretch marks, and that is true, I do not have stretch marks. Toe length ratio, 65% chance you have longer big toe. Yep, that is true. My big toe is the king of my foot. Or, they are the kings of my feet, shall I say. My big toe is the big toe. Unibrow. 55% chance you have a little bit of a unibrow. 23% chance you have a moderate to thick unibrow. And I do not have a unibrow. Well, basically, I don't have a unibrow at all. In fact, there is no hair that is found anywhere in between my brows. So, like, nothing. Literally nothing. This is completely wrong. Widow's peak. 72% chance you do not have a widow's peak. I do not have a widow's peak, so this is correct. It's kind of interesting that some of them are pretty accurate, and others, like this one, is completely off. It's pretty cool to see some of these things. So it also gives you the implication that these results are not, like, entirely accurate in general, but they do give you a fairly decent indication of what you do have in your DNA composition, as well as what you potentially might have. So this was a pretty fun experience, and yeah, 23andme, I would just like to thank them as well, because they were the best choice when it comes to like the which kit to order from these various DNA labs, and 23andme definitely gives you the best value for money, in my opinion. So, hope you guys enjoyed this one. I definitely had a fun time. Also, do leave some comments down below if you've also taken this test and you feel like sharing. I would love to hear what you guys have in your results. And yeah, it's like genetics is a really fun. It's a really fun topic to jump into and explore. Obviously, one shouldn't be putting too much into it because, you know, genetics, although they can be fun to explore, don't really emphasize on it too much because, you know, as a Christian, again, I have to highlight the fact that the flesh doesn't come, like, it doesn't benefit anything. It's the soul that matters and one's faith. So it doesn't really matter where you're from in the world. But it, you know, genetics can be fun to explore just to see do your expectations line up with what you believe and what you've been told, and then see if this is actually true. And in my case, I can, you know, proudly say that yeah, it's actually very accurate. Definitely, I would say 90% accuracy indeed. So, I will thank you guys for watching, and like, share, and subscribe if you feel like it. I would definitely appreciate it. And until next time, God bless, and Godspeed. Oh yeah, by the way, myth debunked. For anyone that means it as an insult, yeah, we are not Turks. Have a nice day.